welcome to the OLEOLOGY container. So where am I standing now at this moment is basically a filtration container that is being assembled by OLEOLOGY here in our HQ. So what you see here is basically filters that are actually arranged in series starting from one end of the container up to the other end of the container. So it actually goes through in series in a loop. Yeah. So just let me take you through the process of what actually happens when water basically comes into the container. So it's actually drawn in by a centrifugal pump, and after which it will then first pass through the back filters for removal of solids, and after which it goes through a series of 10 filter housings, the MXH filters, which are actually filled out with MySlex cartridges. Yeah. So the smaller ones that you see here is basically comprises of 7 filter cartridge in each housing, after which it will then pass through 2 bigger housings where you have 15 cartridges loaded in each of these. So once it's passed through the filter housing, the final stage, which is the polishing stage itself, will actually undergo filtration through the media filters. So each of these big blue vessels here that you see is actually filled up with performance media. Okay, so practically this is how it works in the system itself, but I think I just wanted to highlight here as well as we do offer remote monitoring in our system as well. Yeah. So ideally, how do we then monitor the performance of the filter in the container itself? Yeah, throughout the process. So one, we do it manually or locally through these individual pressure gauges that you can see that is installed on each of this MXH housing. And we also do remote monitoring through the PTs. You can see that there are pressure transmitters which are sort of strategically arranged in across the filter trays, so that we can actually tap on the information so that we can actually monitor back in the office itself. Good morning everyone, welcome to the OLEOLOGY Control Center. This is where we basically monitor the remote monitoring features of the filters and the containers that we actually install at site. So what you see here is basically a remote monitoring software that we are actually using to track the performance of the filters which has already been shipped to the site. So we know where the site is, we know what is being installed, we know in terms of a map itself where are they actually located geographically. And what you see here is basically this is a dashboard that tells you what sort of alarms that are actually running in the system at the moment. If there's any, it will appear here. This is a process flow diagram indicating how the equipment is being set up at site. And I just wanted to highlight this section here where you can see that important parameters or key indicators that affects the filter performance, such as the pressure drops across the filter housing as mentioned earlier, the flow rates that are being flowed, the flow rate of water that basically pass through the filter itself, and the status of the system, whether it's going through normal operation, it's going through backwashing and so on, it's all basically tracked and monitored. We could even monitor the amount of oil content, in this case what actually goes into the discharge effluent itself. So in other words, the system will actually indicate an alarm if there is a situation where it exceeds the tolerance or the discharge limits, and we will be alerted here remotely in our office, which we can then make a call to the client to make sure that somebody can actually attend to the system at site. Okay, so going down in the system itself, we are also monitoring the status of the pressure in each of the vessels. This will give us an indicator on when the filter housings needs to be replaced. Yeah, so you can see that it's colored in terms of the banding itself to tell you if it's on the green zone, means the filter is in operation in a healthy operating pressure range, and if it's on the red zone, it's an indication that the filter needs attention, and in this case, change out of the filter cartridge will be a likely case. Okay. What we also do, besides online monitoring, we also do a pressure trending of what the filter is behaving throughout a period of time. So as you can see from this view graph itself, it's trended over a period of 2 weeks, as you can see. And this is where we actually monitor the key parameters of key pressure transmitters that are located in the vessel itself to see how has the system reacted over a period of time. So with this information itself, we can actually do our own assessment. In this case, debottlenecking if there's any issues in the system where the pressure drops at a level where it's not supposed to, when the system is operating in a healthy manner. But it also gives us a bit of an indication of what's coming, in other words. So we do predictive monitoring from these trends as well. We'll be able, looking at the trend, or if you can see that the pressure profile has dropped tremendously over a period of time, we can more or less preempt what is coming. In other words, in other words, do we need to change out the filters? Do we need to change the pump? In this case, if we see that the pump performance has declined over the last 2 weeks or so. So it gives us that kind of flexibility to also monitor and provide our client with advice, before an actual failure actually happens in the system. So all in all, basically with the remote monitoring capability that OLEOLOGY offers, what we do is we will help the client in trying to preempt preventive maintenance and forecasting. It will also help in early intervention in the event of any potential issues appearing in the system. What it also does here, it helps the client to also manage the inventory management of filters at site. So because that we are able to tell how much filters are being consumed, we are able to plan ahead of what inventory or how much additional filter cartridges that has to be topped up or shipped to the site. And last but not least, I would say is with this effort itself, it clearly contributes to the client's reduction in OPEX and resources, because the client knows that their system is well managed, is being monitored remotely by us, basically the supplier of the skid, and this itself enhances the overall efficiency of the operating concept of the client.